Now, this weekend, the first paying customers will finally get to see what all the fuss is about when the Phantom Menace premieres in the States. Charity tickets cost up to $2,500 each, but British fans who can't wait for the UK release in July will be spending just as much flying to New York in an effort to catch one of the very first screenings. In tonight's countdown to Star Wars, Louise Minchin meets some true followers of the Force.
The critics may have only given the Phantom Menace lukewarm reviews, but that's not stopping thousands of Star Wars addicts doing battle round the clock to get seats for the first showings of George Lucas's special effects bonanza. 3 British fans are so determined to see the film, they're combining their student grants, savings and overdrafts to fly themselves to New York in the desperate hope of getting a ticket.
Well, I remember when The Empire Strikes Back came out, and there were a few twists and turns in that which were actually ruined for me by people who got there before I did, or they'd read the books first and what have you. And so when Jedi came out, I made absolutely certain that I was there on the first performance, and that was half the fun of it, being there first.
It's just with the waiting from Jedi, you know, after Return of the Jedi, I expected and wanted so much more. I say there's only so many times you can watch the videos, but, you know, you just want more.
More is what they all want, and American fans have been queuing for months to make sure they're going to get it. But with only a few days in the Big Apple, what if they don't make it?
I think it would be just absolutely gutting if we didn't, but if we have to come back here and not seeing it, absolutely gutted.
Even if you do fly all the way to New York and join the thousands queuing around the block, the chances of seeing the movie in its first week are increasingly unlikely. But some people have guaranteed themselves a place by coming somewhere like this.
Sports Mondial might specialise in flying football, cricket or boxing fans to far-flung places, but now they too are cashing in on the Star Wars frenzy.
Good afternoon, Sports Mondial.
A Phantom Menace weekend starts at £649, but if you can afford it, you're promised a place in movie history.
It's hard to imagine that there'll be a film as big again as Star Wars. This is definitely the biggest film in history. I think it's been the anticipation of this film for 16 years coming out again. There are a lot of people who weren't sure Lucas would do it, and for a lot of these people, going to New York to see Star Wars means as much to them as a Man United fan going to Barcelona, or a fan of an American football team flying over to New York or to America for the Super Bowl.
This is a battle I do not think that we can win.
I will sign no treaty.
This may be the Star Wars equivalent of the World Cup, but sadly you won't be able to watch the replay on your TV for light years to come. Louise Minchin, 030.
£649 or £3 on video when it comes out. Take your choice. This is 030, the only daily roundup of the day's arts and entertainment news on British television. These are the headlining stories. Sleaze allegations at Radio 1. MPs demand an investigation into clubbing's chief hitmaker, Pete Tong. Can you believe it? A truly David and Goliath plot at the Cannes Film Festival as the small films take the big awards. And a 6,000-mile round trip for the British sci-fi fans determined to catch the Phantom Menace on its opening weekend stateside. Hello, welcome to 030. Thanks for joining me. You're watching 030 here on BBC News 24. It was big, but it wasn't that big. After 5 days on release, the figures are in for the Phantom Menace, and whilst it set some new records, it couldn't beat the benchmark for best opening weekend in America. Here are the details. Between Friday and Sunday, the film pulled in just under $62 million in cinemas across the States, but the weekend title still belongs to Spielberg's dinosaur epic, The Lost World. It set the record 2 years ago with an opening weekend that grossed just under, or over rather, $72 million. Now the 5-day figures tell a different story though. Since opening last Wednesday, the Phantom Menace has raked in a total of almost 103 million. That compares with The Lost World's tally of less than 100. Meanwhile, even visually impaired cinema goers will be able to feel the force of the new Star Wars film. The American company Theatre Vision has produced an audio description of the film's more visual sequences, which can be played back through headphones in sync with the action on screen. Now, the cassette's been put together by a team of blind and sighted writers. Well, as we reported in the run-up to the film's release last week, true Star Wars fans simply weren't content to wait for the British release in July. They made the pilgrimage all the way to New York to see the film on an opening weekend. Among the truly dedicated was Mark Anthony Adams, who's arrived back in Britain just a few hours ago and joins us now on the 030 sofa. Much more comfortable than the streets of New York, of course, our sofa.
Absolutely.
Was it worth the trip? Because the critics were saying a little bit of a, not quite a damp squib, but close.
Well, it was very wet actually. The first day we got absolutely soaked and we thought we wouldn't get a ticket, but we managed to get a ticket for a couple of days later. And no, it was a good movie.
What was it like it in the queue? Because, you know, as you said, it was wet at times. I mean, was there a good atmosphere, or were you worried that you wouldn't?
There was a lot of camaraderie and that sort of thing. Yeah, it was very good. Yeah, and there were people coming out saying, "Oh, have you seen it? It's great." Or some people saying, "Oh, have you seen it? It's not that good." You wanted to get in and see for ourselves what it was like.
I mean, these are the pictures that you actually took yourself. And just to explain, you're a film student as well, so there's some artistic shots of the umbrellas, and that's why. How much money did you spend on the trip?
Well, altogether,
yeah,
probably about, I don't know, about £500, something like that.
And of course, that wasn't your student loan, was it?
Oh, it might not have been.
What about the film? When you got in there, obviously you were excited, you've been queuing, and obviously
that's right, yeah.
The anticipation was building. When was it when you first thought, this isn't as good as I thought it was going to be, or did that moment not come?
There are elements in it which make you think, yes, this is a Star Wars film, but it's a very different film, you know, from the original Star Wars. It's 22 years later, and it is a different kind of film, and things have changed a lot. But it's a good movie.
But because it's a prequel, you're explaining to me, obviously there are things which you know aren't going to happen. So
that's right.
Is that why perhaps that it's not as dramatic as people are saying?
Possibly, because they're trying to set all the characters up, and you know that Ewan McGregor, Ben Kenobi's not going to get killed or anything like that, because he has to be in the next ones. And yes, to start off with, you're trying to find out who the characters are, trying to work out who they are, and Natalie Portman gives a very good performance, but in the beginning she doesn't have a lot to do, so it takes a while for her performance, her character to warm up.
Obviously we're waiting for prequel 2 and 3. Are you not going to be as excited? This is a different experience than obviously the films that you saw in the late 70s and early 80s.
Well, I think 2 and 3, I think they're going to be even more exciting because they're building up to make the connection with the original Star Wars. And as I say, I think this film was much more kind of laying the groundwork. So there's some great stuff, great scenes in it. I mean, the lightsaber battle with Ray Park, Ewan McGregor, and Liam Neeson's just outstanding. It's incredible the way they've choreographed it. It's almost like a dance movement, and the speed. They must have put so much effort into it. It's fantastic.
But in no way, Mark, did you come away thinking it really wasn't as good as I'd hoped it would be?
Well, I love New York anyway. I've been to New York before, so I was into going.
Yeah, but you didn't go for the Empire State Building, did you?
No, true. But no.
So stand on the plane on the way back, do you think maybe it just didn't live up to the expectations?
No, I think it did.
Am I trying to force a point here or something?
No, I think it did. I think it did. But it depends what you're expecting. I think a lot of people are expecting Star Wars, the remake, and it's nothing like that. So as long as you go with no preconceived ideas that it's a different film, then it's fine. It's a good movie.
OK, Mark, thank you very much for joining us. And
good
luck with the studies. Of course, I had an exam this morning. Did it go OK?
Not too bad.
What was it in again?
Oh, it was television waveform theory.
I passed mine, Rick didn't. Still resetting his. Thanks very much for joining us.